LinkedIn presents.
Howdy, everyone. It's Tuesday. I'm Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily. Quick insights from big thinkers. Now, you might not realize it, but there's a revolution happening right now in space. The James Webb Space Telescope is transforming our understanding of the universe with each breathtaking image it takes. It's a $10 billion marvel of human ingenuity, and it's rewriting the cosmic narrative right before our eyes. Richard Panik tells this story in the new book, Pillars of Creation, How the James Webb Telescope Unlocked the Secrets of the Cosmos. Richard is a journalist whose previous books include The Autistic Brain, which he co-authored with Temple Grandin, and The 4% Universe, which won the American Institute of Physics Communication Award and was longlisted for the Royal Society Prize for Science Books. His writing has appeared in the New York Times, Scientific American, Smithsonian, and Natural History, among other publications. And he joins us now to share his key insights.
The James Webb Space Telescope is telling a story. It began observing the universe in July 2022. Since then, it's produced a wealth of data in such a quantity that it's easy to lose sight of a simple organizing principle. It's easy even for the scientists themselves to lose sight of it, the astronomers who have gained their own precious few minutes on the telescope. I've asked many of the top experts in cosmology to name some of the telescope's major contributions, not just to astronomy overall, but to their own very specific areas of specialization. And the answer I've heard again and again and again is, I wouldn't know where to begin. Fortunately, I do. At the beginning. Right from the start, from the first spitballing sessions in the 1980s and 1990s that would eventually lead to the launch pad in 2021, Webb was always going to be telling a story. That story was always part of its vision, part of its mission. And that story was, in a word, origins. The origin of the universe as we know it, the origin of our planet, the origin of our species. And Webb wasn't just going to be telling a story. It was going to be telling its story in 4 distinct parts. In 1610, Galileo used a primitive version of what we would call a telescope to discover that Jupiter has moons. I'm tempted to say, who knew? The answer, of course, is nobody. But more to the point, who would even think to wonder if Jupiter has moons? Or for that matter, if Saturn has rings, of all things, or if other planets exist beyond the 5 we've always known, and no, make that 6, because after Galileo, we had to include Earth among that population. Or if those planets have their own moons and rings. Yes to planets, yes to moons, yes to rings. And those are some of the targets of Webb's investigations in our solar system. Specifically, astronomers want to know where the water is, the assumption being that water is a precondition for life. What Webb has found is that water is just about everywhere. And not just everywhere, but in quantities and locations nobody was expecting. Water is spouting through cracks in the icy surface of a moon of Saturn, a geyser reaching into space at least 10,000 kilometers, or 6,000 miles. But even more intriguing, maybe most intriguing, according to one solar system expert I interviewed for the book, is the presence of water in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, a neighborhood that astronomers had previously assumed to be too distant from the sun and therefore too cold to sustain liquid water. Yet it's there. Did asteroids bombarding the infant Earth billions of years ago bring with them the seeds of life? And what about other planetary systems out there? The second part of the story Webb is telling us. Astronomers in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries found that the more they looked, the deeper they looked into our galaxy, the more stars they found. And if those stars are like our own sun, And if our own sun hosts planets, then not until the 1990s did astronomers know for sure that some stars in the Milky Way galaxy do have planetary systems. Now astronomers are using Webb to ask whether those systems might, like our own, have water. Water, if not everywhere, at least somewhere. But not just water. What about other properties that might portend the possibility of life? What about hydrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide and on and on? Yes, 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 and on indeed, as Webb has found. Not that the presence of certain elements and compounds, including water, predetermines the emergence of life. And to be clear, not that life means sentient beings in possession of death rays or declarations of universal peace. But on a unicellular level, better yet, a multicellular level? Of course, our galaxy, whatever its prospects for life, is hardly alone. And what lies beyond our own galaxy is the third part of the story that Webb is telling us.
Have you been feeling the effects of stress, burnout, or anxiety at work? Listen to the Anxious Achiever podcast to rethink the relationship between your career and your mental health. Get the Anxious Achiever wherever you find your podcasts, and walk away with practical advice you can implement today.
No surprise that in the search for our origins, the solar system and Milky Way experts using Webb are looking for water. Not so some of the experts investigating the galaxies, the hundreds of billions of galaxies that crowd the cosmic landscape from here to the horizon as defined by the Hubble Space Telescope, which can see back to about 1 billion years after the Big Bang. How did those galaxies evolve? How did our galaxy get here? Over the past couple of generations or so, some theorists have suggested a secret ingredient: dust. We've known since the 1950s that, as Joni Mitchell sang a decade later, we are stardust. When some stars get old, they explode, shedding their elements into the universe. But they don't just spread the wealth, they enrich it. They make heavier and heavier elements. But over the past half a century, astronomers have noticed that the universe seems to have too much dust, more dust than exploding stars or supernovae can account for. Can they? Can supernovae produce dust at such a rate that they actually affect the evolution of entire galaxies? Too soon to say for sure, but early results from Webb might just support that idea. Which brings us to the final stop on Webb's journey across space and, because the speed of light is finite, time. Webb can see farther than Hubble, but for astronomers, the question has been, how far? The first stars and supernovae and galaxies didn't form until 100 million or 200 million years after the Big Bang, or about 800 million years farther than Hubble can see. Can Webb see those sources of first light? It's trying, and it's getting closer and closer all the time. And it's finding surprises along the way. Webb has seen more galaxies than theory predicted. More mature galaxies, more black holes, galaxies seemingly too young to be so large and so bright, black holes too massive, supernovae too numerous. And that's fine. That's what Webb was designed to do, to see those earliest objects and to find out if observations matched our expectations. To the extent that they don't, theorists will have to figure out why. And theorists are doing just that. They're challenging their assumptions, adjusting their expectations, and seeing if they can come up with models that make predictions to match what's actually out there. And in that sense, yes, Webb is telling a story. And that story is just beginning.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, listeners, you can get yourself a copy of Pillars of Creation at your favorite bookstore. And for more ideas on science, health, business, and everything else, head over to your app store and download our Next Big Idea app. It's got thousands of big ideas from hundreds of top nonfiction authors. I'm Michael Kovnat. See you tomorrow.